Hello, my fellow humans. I'm going to crack straight in. So if we can mute phones and turn off cameras for now, that would be delightful. If you were listening in on the very brief conversation that Jerome and I were having, shame on you. If you were listening in to the brief conversation, Jerome has just completely accidentally demonstrated one of the main aspects I want to talk about with mindset. Don't worry, Jerome, you demonstrated it in a good way. Here's the what I believe is the most top level or bottom level. It's either the overarching set of principles that make everything else work, or it's the foundation underneath it. I'm not sure which way I'm going with the metaphor, but there are three crucial elements that all really successful consultants have, all really successful recruiters have, potentially all really successful recruitment businesses have. Um, And once you know what they are, the difference between somebody who's going to be a superstar or somebody who's going to stay a superstar and somebody who's, going to make a living, the difference is bang, instantaneous, and you can spot it a mile off. So those three things, as I've mentioned in the email about today's session, and I'm going to do the next three sessions on these three things, or rather the next two sessions, and I'm going to cover one of them tonight. Those three things are mindset, messaging, and machine. Now, we don't often think about those last two terms. Everybody in recruitment talks about, oh, you've got to have the right mindset, by which they normally mean one of two things. By which they either mean you've got to be able to deal with the shit that your boss throws at you, or they mean that you have to be like some kind of motivational speaker. You got to be like you're walking out on stage in front of 10,000 people and you're going to blow the doors off and blow people's hair back like some kind of squirrel in a wind tunnel. I have done that kind of event and I have blown people's hair back like a squirrel in a wind tunnel. That person, that version of me, should never and would never turn up to a recruitment call because that amplified persona, no matter what any motivational session will tell you, no matter what sales trainers from different industries or different backgrounds might tell you, that kind of persona is a massive turnoff when you get it one-to-one. You need confidence, that's true, but you do not need to have this massive energy and state. You don't need to be stalking the halls with your chest down, your shoulders back, and your head up, and your bags of energy all the time. And no matter what happens, I'm bulletproof. That kind of personality doesn't engage candidates or clients when it's run consistently. Occasionally, it's great. It can be really entertaining and engaging for people. But long term, that mono angle, it doesn't work. I speak as somebody who's tried it. Now, what do I mean by mindset? If I don't want you to be a motivational speaker, if I don't want you to be the cliched salesperson, what have I noticed with the best recruiters that I've seen, worked with, trained, interacted with? What are the mindset elements that they have that most people either lack or haven't developed? Well, one of the most fundamental is something that Jerome just demonstrated on this call, which is when stuff happens, what do you do next? There's this big thing that's gone out on social media about resilience. You need to be resilient. And then people jump in an ice bath. That's not resilience. That's jumping in an ice bath. Ain't the same thing. Jumping in an ice bath every morning for 6 months, I'm not even sure that's resilience. I think that's just persistence and pig-headedness and possibly masochism. But resilience actually has quite a simple definition, which is when brown stuff comes down the pipe and drops on your head, what do? Do you go into the corner of the room, hunch down, curl up into a ball, and just say, yeah, it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. Because I've read about positive thinking and it's all going to be okay. That is not resilience. That's delusion and a bit sad. But in the same way as positive thinking is not looking out at your garden and saying, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds. That's not positive thinking. Positive thinking is looking out in the garden and going, hey, there's some weeds. Let me go and deal with it. And then going and deal with it. Resilience is not putting yourself into a world of brown stuff just so that you can deal with it. Resilience is not anything other than having the ability to let the brown stuff land on you and go, okay, how can I turn this to my advantage? And Jerome was talking earlier on and said that, he'd had some misbehaving clients, my term, not his. He had some misbehaving clients. He got some assignments that had gone south, but it gave him the opportunity to get focused on his new niche properly. That's resilience. Literally taking what the world gives you and using it. And again, I'm not into when the world gives you lemons and make lemonade. If any of you have been on Netflix and watched The House of Usher, or you've been on social media and you've seen that ongoing meme about when the world gives you lemons and then you trademark the lemons and you turn it into a social and you copyright the DNA of the lemon. It's that whole thing about taking a thing and not just dealing with it, but using it to make something better. That is resilience. No matter what the world throws at you, you choose consciously to take it and do something better with it. That is my definition of resilience. Because just, being able to take stuff, that just makes you a punch bag. Punch bags aren't resilient. I guess they're tough, but mainly they're just dense and they get punched. So true resilience, the ability to deliberately and consciously bounce back from having crap thrown at you. That's the first part of a great recruiter's mindset. Because no matter how good you are, no matter how good your systems or your processes are, stuff's going to happen. Clients are going to decide to pull the role. Candidates are going to withdraw. It happens. It doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how well you inoculate against counteroffers. The best person I've ever seen at counteroffers, former client of mine called Dave. Dave worked in accounting recruitment for legal recruitment for the Magic Circle firms. Very small niche of very highly paid lawyers in the City of London. His acceptance of counteroffers in a market where everybody got counteroffers that would make you and me jump up and down and wave our underwear in the air, his rejection rate of counteroffers was better than 95%. But even he, with all the practice and all the technique and all the confidence in the marketplace, still got some crappy situations where people accepted the counteroffer. This is recruitment. We've got a client and a candidate, two products, both of whom can say no. It's naive to think that everything will go through on rails all the time. So the first aspect of mindset is the ability to consciously, not just to be one of those kind of bouncy personalities like Tigger. I've got a former colleague who was Tigger, basically. Bouncing around on a tail made of rubber, and everything was great. No, it doesn't matter what happened. Oh, it's fine. I'll just crack on. Right up to the point at which they couldn't. And poor old Luke needed my partner and I to just sit him down and use all our coaching and psychological tools to help him through the near nervous breakdown he got when all of it suddenly hit him, because Luke in that situation had not consciously chosen the resilient route. He just Tiggered his way through. And the thing with Tigger is, eventually Tigger runs out of juice. And that was what happened. So conscious, the conscious choice. The second aspect is the opposite aspect of resilience, which is what do you do when it goes right? And that sounds perverse, but it's a massive litmus test. Some people will make a big placement. They'll get a big fee in, they'll hit their quarterly target in one deal, and they'll go, pressure's off. Okay, I can chill a bit now. The best and most successful people go, okay, now let's go. That's the springboard. That means I can start accelerating. I've done that once. I can do it again. Maybe now is the time to choose. Maybe now is the time to get going on the next deal and the one after that. Because the very best people have the highest standards. They're very difficult to please. They can be very difficult to live with. Excuse me. But they have the highest expectations of themselves, and they view success not as a ceiling, oh, I've just hit my limit. They view any level of success as the floor for the next level. So if they hit their quarterly target in month one, they don't go, foot off the gas. They go, okay, I've hit my quarterly target in month one. Now let's go and hit it in the next couple of weeks. Now let's go and do quarter two in the next couple of weeks. And then let's forget about the quarterly targets because I can do them in a couple of weeks. Let's move on and go straight past it. There's one of my coaching clients who a couple of you know, who has basically taken their billings from around about 250,000 a year, and their current run rate is just over $1 million a year. And they've accomplished that in about 6 months. They've accelerated. Yeah, 6 months. They accelerated over the last 6 months by a factor of 4 and a bit. And they've done that by changing their view of what's possible, by changing their own expectations of themselves. So any level of success is not something to go, oh, look at me, I'm amazing. Even if you are, it's a way to go, okay, that means that I can now do more. That means I can move up. The difference between somebody who's doing 250,000 a year and somebody who's doing 7 figures is simply that somebody who's made that leap won't accept settling for 250,000. Now that can make you challenging for the people around you, because as your expectations change, as your expectations for yourself change, you can't guarantee that the people around you will go with you. And you can sometimes find yourself as an outlier. You can find yourself looking around you going, where's everybody else gone? Yeah? You take a step forward and they go, wow, that was great. But the greats, the people who really achieve awesome things, just accept that. If you have an expectation that you can bill 250,000 a year, the most you can ever achieve is 250,000 a year. We don't rise to the level of our ability. We rise to one of two things. We rise to the level of our expectation, and we rise to the level of our training. So if you want to hit 250 and you believe that 250 is what's possible, that's the most you can achieve. If you want to hit 500 and you don't know whether you can hit 500,000, but you'd like to try, you'll hit 500, or at least you'll move from 250 towards 500. One of the interesting things with the environment around the coaching client I was talking about and a couple of you know who that is, um, it's had a pretty profound impact on a few people around them because there's an entire office full of people who aren't doing a million quid. Excuse me. There's an office full of people who aren't doing a million quid, but a lot of them thinking that they're not doing a million quid yet. And that is all the difference in the world. Going, no, I'm not billing 500,000 a year is a mindset. Billing, I'm not doing 500,000 a year yet. That is a completely different mindset. And that's what's required. It's the ability to shift your own expectations of yourself and what you can achieve and what you're going to settle for. If you'll settle for 250,000, you'll get 250,000. If you will only settle for 500,000, may not hit it on the first go, but you will make progress towards it. So those are the two different aspects of resilience. Bouncing back consciously, excuse me, hay fever season. I've got the air filter on, but it can't keep up today. So firstly, consciously choosing to deliberately make a choice when bad stuff happens to you and consciously choosing to lift your own expectations and your own requirements and your own standards for yourself. If you can do those two things, you'll start to build a real mindset of excellence. Third aspect, and this is the actual foundation of genuine confidence, not hoo-yah confidence. I can show you how to do that. There's a section in the academy about how overcoming fear of rejection. There's a big piece on overcoming fear of rejection through physiology, through using your body language to become instantly confident. And you can carry on doing that. That's fine. But genuinely, I don't want to minimize that, by the way. It's probably up there in the top 5 of skills that I've learned over my life. In the ability to change my state in that long is a massively important skill. I'm not negating it, but there's a different kind of confidence, which I hinted at the start of this call, which is that knowledge that you can do it. You want to make the move from here to there, or your expectations of the first part. But the second part is you've got to know that you have or will develop the knowledge and the ability and the skills to actually do it. And I don't mean no, I mean no. I mean deep down to the bones, know that whatever skills, knowledge, ability, competence you need to achieve the next step, you have to know down to the bone that you have the ability to learn that skill, that competence. The most foundational skill of pretty much every successful person. Sorry, I'm doing Donald Trump hands out, forgive me. Pretty much the most foundational skill of pretty much every successful person is their willingness and ability to learn and grow. Elon Musk moved from being a software programmer, co-creator of PayPal, to becoming a rocket scientist. He didn't do rocket science at university. He wasn't an engineer at university. He literally taught himself how to be a rocket scientist. Bill Gates learned how to be a programmer, and as programming has developed over the decades since he got into it, he's kept up with the latest developments in his niche. My niche is influence and the psychology of behavior. And I have devoted, as a couple of you know, I've devoted insane amounts of time and, in hindsight, insane amounts of money in learning my craft. Because recruitment is a genuine craft. It's part science and part skill. You can apply a lot of science and logic to it, but at the end of the day, you've got to be able to do stuff. There's a science to being a blacksmith. There's science to how you make metal melt in the right way at the right temperature, and then build compounds together and layer it and doing all that sort of. There's science behind that, and there's skill behind banging the right things in the right way. Yeah, using your hammer, using the anvil, using your tools. Put those two things together, skill and science, it becomes a craft. And that is where the most successful people focus their time. They focus their time on understanding and building competence. They worship, and that's not too strong a word, they worship competence. They worship competence in themselves, and they seek it out. They just love meeting people, watching people who are genuinely competent at what they do. Doesn't matter what that may be. Doesn't matter whether that competence is doing a complicated engineering job or digging a hole with the simplest of tools. There's a beauty in doing something really well, in learning how to be good, in learning how to be better. If your expectations change, your demands of yourself change, and you're able to deal with the crap that comes in, but you don't develop the skills and the competence to take you from here to there, that's the recipe for frustration. Because your expectation is that you can do it. But if your skills don't keep up with your requirements of yourself, if your skills don't match your expectations, there's always going to be a gap. And that's where frustration comes from. And stress to some degree. Stress comes from wanting something and knowing that you can't get it, or having to deal with something and not knowing how. Yeah? So those three aspects, to me, are the fundamentals of a recruiter's mindset. Consciously dealing with brown stuff, consciously shifting your expectations and requirements of yourself, and consciously committing to being the most competent that you possibly can be at whichever elements you choose to focus on. I'm not suggesting that, if you're a recruiter, that you have to be a tech wizard. I'm not suggesting that you have to be able to code. I'm not suggesting that you have to, excuse me, I'm not suggesting that you have to be able to build an app. That's not what I mean. What is the science of recruiting? It's a science and it's a craft based around psychology, human behavior, and when I come to machine in a subsequent call, it's about building a process that supports your expectations, building a process that allows you to move forward in the way you want to. So competence comes in realizing what the key skills are, realizing what the key competencies that you need are, and focusing on them, spending the time, the mental and physical effort to lift your competence to keep up with your expectations. Put it a different way, lift your skills till they match your desires. And then that confidence is based on reality. It's not bravado, it's not hot air, it's genuinely, that's what I'm going to achieve, and I've got the skills and knowledge to do it. That's what I'm going to achieve next. And I haven't got the skills and knowledge yet, but I know where to get them. I'm going to go and do it. Those three pillars will allow you to make all sorts of progress more quickly than you ever imagined was possible. There's some other elements as well, but if you notice with all those things, they are not quick fixes. They take time. Less than you think, by the way, but they do take time. They're also conscious. It's not like you wake up someday and you go, huh, my God, my entire psychology and the way my brain is wired has changed. A new soul has entered my body and I can do wonders. That's That's not how this stuff works. It's taking a conscious decision tonight, tomorrow, about how you deal with some brown stuff. It's taking a conscious decision that, yeah, I'm running at this rate and I'm not going to accept it. I'm going to treat that as my floor. Yeah, I've just blown my quarterly target out the window. I've destroyed it. Fine. Next month, I'm going to do bigger and better. Next quarter, I'm going to do bigger and better. And regard it as an expectation, require it of yourself. And then build the base of skills, knowledge, craft, so that you can support your expectations. With those conscious choices, you will be amazed at how much you can do and how consistently you can do it. Because this is a line that I learned from Tony Robbins, who learned it from Jim Rohn years ago. And it's the fact that almost everybody overestimates what they can achieve in 6 months. And they massively underestimate what they can achieve in 10 years. If you take those 3 elements of mindset and you apply them and you just get a little bit better every day. I'm not going to give you the 1% better every day speech, but if you get a little bit better and it's a conscious choice and you keep making that conscious choice, you won't believe what you can achieve. And you won't believe how relatively easy it is to do it. Now, that's not what most people talk about with mindsets. And I don't care, because that's what's worked for all the people I've known. That's what's worked for people who've built the most successful firms. It's what's worked for the best recruiters I've ever met. And I've met some phenomenal people over the years. Next week, I'm going to talk about messaging. And messaging is not just pitching your message. Messaging is actually another way of saying communication. But there is no word for communication that starts with an M, is the God's honest truth. So there is no synonym that I could find for communication or questioning or anything else that I could fit into the 3 M's. So I'm choosing messaging because 50% of messaging is what you say. The other 50% is what you take in. So it's messages from the outside world, from your clients and candidates, and it's messaging that you give out. And then the week after that, I'm going to talk about machine, which is to a degree inherent in straight line recruitment, but I'm going to break it down into a much more structured format, because it is possible to build a recruitment machine. It is possible to make yourself into a recruitment machine. You just have to be analytical and much more process driven than most recruiters are. And that's not anything to do with recruiters' abilities or recruiters' focus. It's largely a function of how we come into the industry. I got into recruitment from sales and sales training. I got into sales because when I was 21, I was working in freight forwarding and logistics. And my boss pulled me to one side and he said, "I think you should go into sales." I said, "That's a horrible idea. What the hell would you do that to me for?" And he said, "Well, you've got this thing that most of the people in the firm don't have." I said, "What's that?" He said, "The ability to speak in sentences." Never was such faint praise able to have such a dramatic impact. Yeah. I mean, it's at such a low bar. You should go into sales because the rest of your colleagues talk like chumps, is basically how my career started. Turns out, yeah, I can speak in sentences. Turns out I can speak in entire paragraphs and occasionally chapters, I sort of noticed. But most people get into recruitment because they've got some people skills, because they've got the ability to talk to people. They've got the ability to communicate and present themselves credibly and well enough to get through the interview process and get hired as a recruiter. So Most of us come into recruitment because of our interpersonal skills. But if you want to take that final step to becoming absolutely awesome on autopilot, that requires a slightly different set of skills that you will obviously want to become massively competent at. So, mindset, messaging, machine. I've started, I'm going to finish. So, that's me done for this sesh. I'm going to throw it open to the Ask Me Anything session. I'm just going to have a quick look at a couple of messages that have come in while we've been talking. A sec. Okay, not a problem. Just somebody thanking me for the resilience stuff. Okay, so let me throw it open to those of you who are here live. Those of you who weren't here live, just think about what you missed, chance to do this. Okay, so I'm going to throw it open to you. Please feel free to click on your mics and your cameras. And if you just want to do it through chat, that's absolutely fine. I can take it on chat. Off we go, guys. Ask me anything. Doesn't have to be about this session. It can be about anything you like.
No, that was great, Stephen. Thank you. Definitely need to raise the self-confidence level, especially with all the training and tools that have been thrown at us. And just like everyone else, I think there's always that question of, oh, can I do it? But the thing is, I've had a post-it note on my I won't tell you what my personal target was, but I had a post-it note on my desk of what I wanted to achieve above my fixed target by the business, and
Yeah.
I've just binned it because maybe it is holding me back. That's
Yeah.
just a target. Yeah. Why not go above?
Well, but you happen to be sat 30 feet from somebody who's in a not dissimilar niche, working with PEs and stuff like that. If you kind of flip what you just said a little bit, Jerome.
Of course.
You said you need to change your confidence level about what you can achieve. I think it's the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's actually the opposite. I think you need to decide that you're only going to accept a higher level. And then, as I mentioned, get really conscious about, okay, what skills or processes or knowledge do I need to go from here to there? Yeah. Let's say you're I don't know, because I genuinely can't remember what your official target is, but let's say your official target's, I don't know, 150. Yeah. And you were deciding to go for 200. I don't need, that's just random numbers. So
Sure.
I emphasize to everybody else who's watching, that's just random numbers. If you go, okay, screw it, let's do it. Let's go for 350 instead. So instead of a business target of 150, and instead of, well, let me squeak above it and get to a couple of hundred. Yeah. If you just think, screw it, let's do it. I'm going to do 350. I will not accept less than 350. Okay. The next thing that pops into your head is bound to be, well, how do I do that? Yeah. And that comes down to machine, because we need to build a machine to deliver it. But there's also some skills, knowledge gap. Yeah. When you're at 350, what skills and knowledge will you have? Or what level of skills and knowledge will you have that you haven't got now? And as you start to develop them, the confidence will come. Because confidence isn't an energy drink. You can't go, let me have a couple of cups of confidence. Confidence is actually, you've done sports?
Yeah.
Name a sport that you played.
Rugby and badminton.
Okay, rugby and badminton. Am I right in thinking you're a linguist as well?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So you are confident that you can speak a language. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most people aren't. How do you know that you can speak a language? Because you've learned it and you've developed the skill at it. And so now you're confident. Yeah. But you didn't start to learn a language because you were confident. Yeah. You know how to do a rugby tackle. You know that you can dive in, put your head behind the knees. Yeah, learned that one the hard way. Thanks very much. You put your head behind the knees and you can take somebody down. Yeah. And you're confident that you can do that because you've learned the theory, you've practiced it, and you've become competent. So now you're confident that you can do that actually quite difficult thing. Yeah. You can see a very large man running at you, a full sprint, and you can duck your head down and put them to the ground. Yeah. Without the use of weapons. Most people don't have that confidence that they could do that. Most people don't have the confidence that they could go to France or Spain or Italy and just converse with people. You have language skills. I'm talking from England. We're English. We don't do language skills generally. Yeah. But your confidence comes from however long it took you to learn the basic structure, to learn the vocabulary, and then to practice using that syntax, grammar, vocabulary. Yeah.
Hmm.
Interpersonal skills, recruitment, influence skills are no different. There's a grammar, there's a syntax, there's vocabulary, and there's practice. So
Yeah.
you'd have to decide you're going to play rugby. You'd have to decide you're going to learn French. Same way, you have to decide you're going to bill whatever the number is, and you're going to work out how to do it. So positive thinking goes, I'm going to bill 350 grand this year. I'm going to bill 350 grand. I'm going to bill 350. I'm going to bill it. I'm going to bill it. I'm going to bill it. No, you're not. Because there's a little voice in your head that goes, yeah, but I don't know how to do that. So that's shit. Okay? But
Mm.
if you go, I'm going to bill 350 grand, and here's what I need to learn to do it. I'm going to bill 350 grand, and here's the skills I need to develop. Then you get confident, a little bit more confident with every little bit more skill. So it's actually, I don't mean to be rude or disrespectful, it's actually the opposite of what you were saying. And it's the opposite of what most people say. Yeah. Confidence follows expectations, not the other way around. Does
Mm.
that make sense, man?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
I mean,
it's a
it's something that
it's a bit
it's
bend
something
your
that
mind free.
yeah. I mean, it's something that Joe always says to a lot of us. It's don't look at the figure on the board. Just focus on the processes. Focus on what you're doing, and the money will
Yeah.
follow. It's just a question of rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Get the basics right, essentially.
Yeah. It's the scores are it's a scoreboard. Yeah.
Mm.
You're what you brought in is a scoreboard. But um excuse me, if there's for those English people that are on the call, I'm going to swear it's like the English football team. The English football team at the moment, they do not go out there to destroy the competition and win by the maximum number of goals possible. They go out there to not lose. Yeah.
Mm.
That's the mindset difference. Yeah. If you go, okay, this is what I'm going to accept, I will not accept. And it's not a target. It's this is what I will require of myself. Yeah. You're a fit guy. You go to the gym. You do your workouts because you require of yourself that you go to the gym. It's not a target.
Mm.
You require it of yourself. It's just what you do. Eventually, achieving that level, that level you weren't sure you could reach, eventually it just becomes another day. It just becomes who you are. You just become
Yeah.
what you do, and then you go on. Then you go up and change your expectation. If I could give you one life lesson from my years of how can I put it? Tribulation. Yeah. Because I had some tribulations. It'd be really simple. Raise your expectations and minimize your expenses.
Mm.
Yeah. Don't don't do what most recruiters do. They grow their income by 50% and they increase their costs by 60. Yeah. Increase your get the life you like, then just keep the income coming in. Yeah. And put it
Yeah.
away. I know lots of recruiters who've sat back and kicked back and just retired at 40. Because the great thing about recruitment is when it's working, it spins off cash.
Mm.
Yeah. As long as you don't get out there and buy the car and spend it.
Yeah.
Fair dues?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh,
Thanks,
guys,
Stephen.
more questions, more thoughts. Any more for any more? Okay. I'm not sure who's still on. Karina, are you still with us? Or have you headed off? I think Karina's headed off at this point. Okay. I will end it on that one. when we come back next week, I want to talk about, again, not massive detail. I'm going to talk about the core principles of human communication. What are the really core competencies that you need to drive your success, to meet your expectations of results? That's what I'm going to spend the time looking at next week under the heading of messaging. So thank you for this week. I don't know whether you've enjoyed it, but I've had a ball. So thanks again. I'm going to go off and take my hay fever treatment. This will be, as always, this will be up on the Academy as quickly as we can do tomorrow, which is Friday. Take care. Speak to you next week.